I haven't made an update in a while. I've been pretty busy. There's been some family stuff that's slowing me down. I'm now moved. I will have moved twice in 6 months. We kind of moved temporary. And we'll be moving again. And so, you know, as the case occurs, when you move a lot, it slows things down. But have faith in the project. I'm not going anywhere if I have anything to say about it. It's just we're in a bit of a lull period. And so, in order to keep things from slowing down too much in the eye of those who are watching this channel, I just wanted to do a live chat with y'all, a live YouTube. And with that, today I am updating this beautiful Genetry solar inverter, which served me well for about a year, and now I am adding this board, revision C up from revision A. Somewhere on this it said the number 19. If this company ever becomes the next Apple, I want everybody to know that I had the 19th one they made. Number 19, drawn by hand on there. Sid and Sean are great guys. I have a lot of faith in their company, and they were nice enough to provide me with an update from revision, I think it's A1 to C, something like that, you know, so that I can have all three of the inverters that we're using for our three-phase work communicating perfectly together. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm just going to upgrade again this board, which has these, I think these are relays, something to that effect on here. I'm not quite sure, but I think these are relays. Some a lot beefier hardware than the previous, in order to support a more robust upstream side to the inverter. That is the grid tie aspect of it, which had been a weakness of this style of inverter, which is a split phase, low frequency. That's a key word, that's an important word, low frequency design. Low frequency, as I understand it, being the technology that was used in early airplanes and trains in order to provide power on those things. A little bit more reliable than those high frequency, which are more MOSFET heavy type of tech. Right now at this exact moment, I'll try to make it so you can see. How about that? I'm gonna start by, Sid had me do one thing which I'm only slightly uncomfortable doing, but you know, I think it's the right call. He just wants me to cut this header right there. I'll probably do that out of sight so that I don't make myself look like a fool, but just know that in order to perform this upgrade for what it matters, I will be cutting it right there so that it can populate these two header receiving, I don't know what you'd call the receiving end of the header, but so that those can be populated and everything else that comes with it. I might not do the complete update here in this session, but I'm just trying to, you know, fill the airways, let you all know I'm still around, talk to you a little bit. You know, when, I don't know. So, I took these off at the bottom about these nylon standoffs. I took this off to help troubleshoot, because revision A worked great until I played around with the upstream. Didn't really play around, but hooked up the upstream side of it, so I could charge the battery with the grid tie if I did so choose. I think it's called the ATS mode or UPS mode. It's capable of doing either, actually. And when that occurred, it wasn't a catastrophic failure, but it did stop working. And Chit has offered this solution as a free upgrade, in addition to helping me to keep the communication good again between those other two inverters and this one. As I understand it, Chit and Sean have been very busy over there doing the. I'm gonna kind of jump around probably. They've been busy reducing the weight of their product and increasing the power. I think they just put out their 12,000 watt split phase inverter, which is fantastic news for them over at genetrysolar.com. And if you didn't know, our own website is zchg.org. That is zchg.org, as well as WeCharge, WECHARG.com. Get that out of the way. This was my old breaker box assembly, main shut off for the downstream side. I think it was the downstream. No, excuse me, for the upstream. And so that pigtails off of there. And probably gonna mount this guy next. You know, I've talked before, I think, about the future of electric vehicles, and how it's my opinion that we will migrate away from the battery, or the battery might remain in existence but might take a backstage to some other technologies, such as what a friend of mine's doing. He's an acquaintance, I should say, Jeremiah, over there at Energy Supply, which is another great outfit. They're working on that Tesla turbine with the concept that they've already developed. It's not so much an idea as the reality that you know, the law of thermodynamic being one of them, being relating to the fact that if you've got a cold and you've got a hot, actually you can create a lot more magic, if you will, with the cold side of things, a cold vessel, if you will, or even a cold environment, such as the outdoors when you're in the winter, which is bountiful, than the hot. So you can actually create energy when you're traveling from, let's say, lukewarm to cold, to frigid cold. You can create quite a bit of energy that way. And of course, why would you only go lukewarm when you can go boiling hot? You create that differential. So I do think that eventually the Tesla turbine is going to come back in a big way. You know, that fella, Nikola Tesla. I do think that's going to come back in a big way. I think it's going to make the battery less and less significant. You know, the more research you'll do about battery, the more you'll discover it's sort of a rollout, which I was ignorant to when I started this project. And now I'm finding that, you know, what, as Newton, I think it was Newton who had said, I stood on the shoulder of giants, to paraphrase. I think Nikola Tesla did a lot of work that we're still rediscovering to this day, not only with the Tesla turbine, but also with wireless power and wireless transmission of energy and wireless internet, which are some things that we are also working on over here at zchg.org. I encourage you to check out our repository. We've got a GitHub. It's pretty well populated at this point, not only with our existing cross-bridge internetwork, whatever you call it, blockchain technology, Web 3.0, we had pioneered, one of the very first to put out a Web 3.0 demo, which is now in live, which you can access at hub.zchg.org. You can see our network over at stats.zchg.org, and you can see our Explorer, just like the Ethereum Explorer, only ours is proprietary and native to our core network, the Charge network. I think it's Explorer or explorer.zchg.org. I'm pretty sure it's explorer.zchg.org. I wear a lot of hats around here. I've told you all about that, which means that I'm unfortunately the guy in charge of DNS right now, and I'm not the best guy to administrate DNS, not so much because I'm not capable of it, but because I'm made to wear a lot of hats. So please bear with me. If any of our name servers are not jiving well with you, you can always put in an inquiry if you're trying to find something on our live chat over at t.me/charge without the E, CHARG, chat, t.me/charge chat. And that's our Telegram channel. But our forums also love to hear from you, zchg.org. You know, we are fixing to make it a completely open source initiative for the time being. It's I will say mostly open source. We don't want to give all our secrets away. There's a reason Heinz Ketchup and Coca-Cola were so successful. They didn't give all their secrets away. But I do intend to give this to the world because the chances of us succeeding as a project with our limited budget right now are pretty small. You know, I've given you my spiel before about how we're always the underdog, and we work with the cards we were dealt. We make lemonade with lemons, and that's what we do around here. But it is my firm belief, to maximize the chances of this technology falling into the correct hands, the white hats if you will, that it just needs to go straight to open source. And so, yeah, why not? I've been meaning to talk about why we're going open source for a long time. Why not talk about it now? Maybe I'll make I want, you know, there's some personal reasons. I want to have a legacy. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to understand my mortality, at least insofar as, you know, comprehending aspects of it. And I want to make sure that I leave a legacy, not only for my own name, which at the end of the day is irrelevant, but also for the future of my children and your children who are destined to one day meet. If we are to continue to populate this planet together for a long enough time period, I'm sure that my children and your children are destined to meet, assuming we are all still here, still rocking on this awesome planet. And so, to that end, I'm just doing my best, just like anybody else ought to be doing. And so, open source. You know, I come from a country, the United States, and I come from an era where it is expected that you do not share your intellectual property. It's expected that you hoard it. It's expected that you I'm taking these MOSFETs off right now, if you couldn't tell. It's expected that you try to create as much profit as possible and try to clone or emulate all those corporations out there, which in my opinion are dead, but are treated, you know, in the side issue, they're treated like they're alive. But as soon as you betray the concept of open source, which is basically giving back right away what you create, as soon as you become that quote-unquote evil corporation, there's no soul there, there's no opportunity to better anybody but yourself or the corporation. You know, the word idolatry kind of comes to mind when it comes to that corporate model. I frankly think that that corporate model is right now going the way of the dodo. I think that those dinosaur companies, those what do they call them, zombie corporations that are now permeating the majority of the market, that are heavily subsidized by taxpayer dollars and what they call the military-industrial complex. They are growing so big into this grotesque monster. They're merging into one another. You don't need me to enumerate the names of these mega corporations that we all shop at in order to sustain. And they take that responsibility, and I feel that they abuse it. And so what we're seeing is people are getting fed up with it, and eventually there's going to be a migration away from those corporations that are growing or dying until they're just empty shells, empty, like sort of like the rings on a tree where the outside is healthy and the inside is just dead. We're migrating away from that and toward a more distributed model. Not only of what we had been working on, the distributed blockchain, but also the distributed model of the ideas of sharing the intellectual property, making sure the public has it and can use it right away. Because, you know, I found that a small story comes to mind. This gentleman, who I'll call my uncle, he's not really my uncle, but I grew up around this family to where they were like uncle. He was like an uncle to me, is like an uncle to me. And he had an idea, or maybe his friend had an idea, I don't remember exactly, it doesn't matter. Had an idea where was golfing, and something about the idea of having a kid that could fit in your golf clubs, you know, like a kid carrier. And it was $1 million idea, as they say, and he wanted to bring it to market. He jokingly wanted to bring it to market, and he never did, and lo and behold, somebody else did. And that's sort of invariably what occurs if you don't hold on a sec. If you don't, I'll finish my thought first. If you don't bring your product to market, somebody else will. And if you don't, hi, whoever just joined the live chat, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. If you don't, can I see what you're saying? I'm going to try to. I'm stuck in horizontal mode. It won't let me talk to you at this time. I'll try to fix that in a minute. But anyway, if you don't bring your idea to market, it's going to be invariably stolen. And even if you do bring your idea to market, I've found somebody's going to try and steal it. So why not just give it away right away under the auspices that I can guarantee that I'm going to have some satisfaction if my idea goes to market, even if that idea is, let's see if I can talk to you now. Nope. Orientation is locked. I apologize. I need to learn how to use this. Cancel. Orientation is locked. This one, I'll figure out how to talk to you guys next time. I wasn't expecting anybody to come to my live stream, so that's sort of why I'm not organized in that respect. But it's only one person, so I'm sure it's probably just a friend of mine or an associate that we can talk to, follow up later on. But anyway, thanks for being here. So anyway, the open source thing, I think it's going to take over. I think it's going to be the new way of life. And I think it's a beautiful future because, like the aforementioned dinosaur or dodo corporation, the zombie corporation is now dying slow death, slow and agonizing death. Rising from the ashes of that are the distributed, sort of like the Thingiverse, the Make magazine type of revolution that's occurring, where the people who are creating new stuff are all of us. We're all working together. So I was going to pause for a second as far as what I'm doing with this inverter, because there appears to be, I got to figure out if there's a difference between these MOSFET boards. On this one you can see there is a there's a little jumper on there. I don't see a difference between them, and so I'm going to go ahead and mount this just like so. And I've been talking to Sid. I know he thinks I'm kind of quirky because I'm trying to get him to convince him to make a version of the inverter which is not using the MOSFETs at all. I call it a purely analog setup. I think that if you go straight up analog, you're going to have a much more reliable board. The problem with it is it's not proprietary at that point. Let's see. These two screws are different, the bottom and the top. So I'm going to double check. So it looks like the stubby screws go on the bottom. That's good to know. So yeah, I can see why a company like Genetry would want to have a proprietary setup so that they have a product that can be sold. But I'm also trying to sell the idea as I go for others to join me in this revolution of the open source, you know. As we will have found out, that competitive capitalistic model, although it inspires development, it also sort of shunts development. It sort of prevents development from going beyond trade secrets and hoarding. And I'm having a problem right now, actually, where I'm trying to fix the family car, which is a early teens Honda, and it just is becoming so complicated to fix your own car that you have to turn your car into the, what do they call it, the stealership, the dealership. You have to turn it into them just to be able to fix your own car. And so that whole concept of the right to repair sort of gets dragged around in the mud. And I think instead of that, what if everybody knew how to fix their own inverter? What if everybody knew how to build their own inverter? How will you make your money? Well, first of all, it's a cultural shift. Who cares about making money if the mindset is no longer making profitability have the front seat? What if the mindset, the cultural transition, which is sort of flagship by fiat currency in these times, the dying fiat currency being replaced by ideas such as zchg.org. What if, in addition to the revolution of the crypto, what if the culture changed also? What if the culture shifted towards open development, creating for the sake of creating? What if we could really, let's be honest, if you were any kind of boy growing up, anything like me, you enjoyed putting together Lego sets and erector sets and Zoom tools. You ever heard of Zoom tools? And all that fun stuff, all those projects. Just be honest, you enjoyed doing that, and at some point in that 9 to 5, you lost that creative spark. That thing that made you what you were when you were a kid, the thing you forgot when you became a man or a woman, and sat down in that zombie corporation cubicle and started producing ideas that you didn't really care about for a company that you don't really care about, for money that's really nice to have until you have enough, and then you don't really care about the money either. So this is a cultural change. This isn't just a monetary shift, although that is of course very important. The culture has to change with it. I was fascinated. I had that, I told you, the Make magazine. I had that growing up, which is a fantastic magazine. And I knew about the 3D printer thing way before it was popular, where you can literally make anything you want with a little bit of CAD skills and just print it off. We're entering into an era where it's no longer going to be culturally acceptable to hoard ideas, to hoard resources, and all that. And we're that's not to say you shouldn't, you shouldn't have private property, which I do believe in. I'm a constitutionalist myself. I believe in private property, and I even will eventually talk about constitutional money, which plays a role. One of the reasons we're in Cheyenne is it's sort of a shelter or safe haven from the possibility that charge could be construed as non-constitutional money. That's somebody's opinion. I don't think it would be construed as money per se, and we say on our website it's not a security, but nonetheless there is a thing called constitutional money, and fiat currency, if you didn't know, the Federal Reserve note is not it, at least as far as I understand it. I could be wrong. I have been wrong before many times. Constitutional money, as we transition into this cultural shift, into this monetary shift, the definition of money will and has and will be changing, and money will no longer be defined the same way it was before. It's going to be something new, and I don't know honestly everything that it is that it will be. I just know that it's going to change. I just know that for a fact because I'm in the trenches. I'm on the front lines. I see it every day that money is becoming software, and it's going to go one of two ways. Either we're going to permit the next fiat currency to enslave our children, or we're going to permit for more of a cultural shift away from that greed model and toward the sharing model. That's not to say I'm not a collectivist per se. I like aspects of collectivism, but I'm not a collectivist. I don't believe in forced reallocation of resources, but I do believe in voluntary contributing towards one another, helping one another out. And I think that I think our culture is quite sick at this time, or had been sick and is healing. You could go your whole life sitting in that cubicle, making that money, hoarding those resources and that money. And what legacy have you created for yourself that your family, your children, and your friends' children, and strangers' children can enjoy? How are you planting trees for the future and enrichment of all of our children's children, etc.? How are you planting a tree that thinks about 7 generations into the future? How are you making it so that we can all benefit? So a lot of the emphasis behind the zchg.org initiative, excuse me, it's hard to turn, is well, we're working on distributed internet, because when I spent a lot of time in the woods, I discovered that if you try to have satellite internet, they will, not unlike when I went to Cuba, they will slow down your internet. They will charge you inordinately high prices, and they will hoard that resource, which is infinite. They will hoard that internet. So why not have peer-to-peer radio internet? I don't understand why that hasn't happened already. And I outline pretty much at length at this point not only my action plan, but the software, the code that could help to begin to implement a blockchain-based version of an ad hoc global network, which competes with the likes of our satellite-based friends who are trying to create a centralized internet in space, which we don't need to be centralized internet, and really we don't need centralized power. Anybody with 2 brain cells can understand that once you nip the infrastructure costs in the butt by way of distributing those costs, internet is an unlimited resource. So is bandwidth, because we do have the technology, but we don't have the cultural mindset. And well, it's sort of the what I always preach, the off the shelf. It's all available off the shelf. It's just a matter of picking and choosing the correct software and making it so that it's, well, another problem is making it so that it's standardized enough that people will use it. Because if I'm using this tech and you're using that tech, and there's no communication protocol in between, there's no mass adoption. So there's no reason internet shouldn't be unlimited and free, and there's really no reason power should not be unlimited and free. And money and internet and energy, they go hand in hand. And ZCHG understands that. We've understood that for over almost 6 years now. Since 7 years? Since 2016 we've been working on that. And so we were at the forefront of that a long time ago. And we still are to this day working on that. But it's slow, you know. One of the disadvantages of this cultural and technological shift being in its infancy is that we're like a seedling right now, right? If you don't water a seedling, it doesn't grow. It in fact will die. And if you do, it'll eventually grow into something quite large. And so I'm spending this time now to nurture this company, this open source initiative. I'm spending this time to let you know I'm still here, and I'm letting you know that I'm sort of slacking these days, not for lack of trying, but because of the transitions that are going on in my own life. Being a man who wears a lot of hats with the family and the companies and the open source initiative and all that, and also the off-grid stuff I've been doing, you can see I've been living the life. I have now lived off-grid for 3 years of the last 3.5, and my history, my resume will attest to that. If you really want to understand what we need, you have to live it yourself, and I have lived it myself. I've had the yurt, I've built the tiny house, I've had the greenhouse, and the cabin in the woods, and the solar panels, and the wind turbines, and the 4-foot snow drifts, and all of it. And so, as I'm thinking about clean water for people, and power, and the internet, and just lifestyle, distributed food, trying to zero in on what our specialty is, I would say it's energy is money, power is distributed internet, and power is free, and internet is free if we can make the modifications that we need to help this little project to thrive. So this was part one. I've got to go eat dinner. Speaking of family, I've got to go eat dinner with the family. This was part one of refurbishing and upgrading the Genetry solar. I think it's a 6,000 watt split phase low frequency inverter. We've done, real quick, I'll mention this toroid. I would like to modulate in order to generate a long range frequency radio communication to make it all work. So this is actually really relevant, this inverter, because we are going to create a module at some point, I believe, if the roadmap continues on course, that will modulate this and not only provide power, but it might also receive power wirelessly, and it might also modulate internet signals out in the middle of nowhere. Doesn't matter how far in the middle of nowhere, because of the wattage involved and the low frequency aspect of it. And so, as before, be sure to check out our repository. The proof is in the pudding. I've been putting together that code all by my lonesome. Imagine if I had a little bit more help with just any old person out there who wants to help. This is an open source initiative, and so if as soon as people start showing up, that's when the magic happens. Never mind that monetary thing, the resource called money. That's a side or an afterthought. It doesn't matter as it relates to the open source aspect of this initiative, because those corporations are going the way of the dodo bird, and the open source development is the future. I believe that, and I think that my concepts will prove themselves in the future. Future proves past, or they won't. And if they don't, at least I know that I was being true to form as far as allowing myself to be creative. And if they do, well, joke's on you, suckers. Anyways, please check out the website, zchg.org. We charge, WECHARG.com, no E at the end there. Love to see you on Telegram, t.me/charge chat, charge without the ECHARG, chat. And love you guys, that's the truth. I'm doing this for you, but I'm doing this for my kids, and so I love my kids, and I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.